My name is Jeff Klaus. I'm responsible for global ISV strategy. I've got a cast of characters to come up and reinforce the programs that we're going to discuss. My role here is to ensure that we have from end to end a more appropriate environment for software companies. That's my role. It spans from ensuring that we have account manager coverage that's appropriate. How are we reinforcing the engagement and commission incentive programs for this team, all the way to programs and capabilities from a product perspective and also from a go-to-market perspective. We have learned from IDC in particular that US customers are very interested in the technology, but equally as important are the go-to-market capabilities and resources there. So that's what this session is going to focus on, go-to-market and activities that we have for you to take advantage of. It's a little bit murky going forward. We have a challenging environment. We're not sure from an interest rate perspective what's happening. We've got some unstable environments in parts of the country. So what typically happens when you see fog up ahead is you slow down, right? You're not sure what's around that corner. You slow down to kind of make sure that it's safe, and you might be a little more conservative. So we're going to show you a couple of options. And I know you're going to see a ton of sessions this past few days, but I want you to leave with two specific things. Take two from this session to talk to your account team. And if you don't have an account team or appropriate coverage, then you're going to reach out to us on LinkedIn and find the appropriate person in order to get connected to these services. So in a murky environment, we're going to show you something that's a bit more conservative, a little closer to the front, and then we'll have another set of options that are a little further down the road that might be a little more investment, but it's based on your risk tolerance. So we'll capture these and put them in perspective based on very simple terms. We're going to talk about, sell more of what you have. How can you do that? How can we help you to sell something new? And then we'll talk at the end about selling in a new geography. You can kind of see the continuum and the risk tolerance as we get towards the end. So that's what we're going to focus on. So the first piece is selling more of what you have. And don't take it from us, but take it from a Forrester economic study looking at the capabilities of one of our foundational elements for go-to-market, and it's AWS Marketplace. So foundationally, we think that this should be a part of your go-to-market strategy. It's an additional channel for you to consider on your path to go-to-market. And I know it's not if you build it, they will come. That's not what happens here. It's a set of challenges in order to get into and get set up with Marketplace, but it is the foundation that you can build upon. And we've had customers repeatedly tell us that this is an area, and in particular, we'll talk about a specific customer example of how they've used Marketplace. It doesn't always have to be a SaaS solution. You don't think of Marketplace as an area where you just click and download something. There are a number of paths that you can take by using this as a foundation. It is a simple one. It is very low cost. It's at the front when you're looking at that fog. It's closer to your comfort level because it's easy. So Marketplace, we're talking about transforming customers using this as a strategic channel and not necessarily ensuring that it has to be SaaS. We have customers that are selling hardware that accompanies a software solution on Marketplace, and there are paths to introducing combinations of customers through the engagements that Marketplace brings. So we see that this accelerates deals because you've got a fully vetted and listed solution that's available for you to research. It can certainly scale not only within a small transactional environment, but it can also scale into new geographies. The Marketplace team takes care of the entity requirements in other geographies. It also takes care of currencies and the challenges you might have there. So it abstracts the complexity of being in multiple markets in order to have that foundational sell. So co-sell is an important piece of that also. And when you're aligning a sales team to target a certain persona and a certain target market, Marketplace can be a reinforcement path in order to have that transaction go through. Significant amount of customers. You're not alone there. There are a significant amount of customers that are going to Marketplace to see what's there. It's displayed by categories, and there's also a set of competitive vendors that are there as well. So you're not alone, and that's why I think it's important as a foundational element to your go-to-market strategy. I'm going to give a quick example of a company called WAG. They were looking for a solution that was kind of using their data in a more logical way to log and generate data insights. And they turned to Sumo Logic as the starting point, but they also determined based on the engagement with Sumo that Fivetran was also going to be an important ingredient customer there. So they looked at this kind of private offer and had a conversation after discovering and being aware of what Sumo Logic can do for them. And then Sumo was able to bring in these the other insights that could be provided from Fivetran. And this is an example of a private offer that's not, the typical view that you see when you look at Marketplace as being just a download and transactional element. It's a lot of additional introductions occur as a starting point for what Marketplace can provide. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to bring on a customer who's been in Marketplace, been in that environment, and I wanted to introduce Kenta from Soracom to come and talk about his personal experiences there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kenta Yasukawa, CTO and co-founder of company Soracom. Let me talk a little bit about what we do. We offer smart connectivity platform for IoT. We have been offering LTE, 4G, 5G radio for IoT devices to get connected to cloud. We have covered more than 160 countries worldwide. We also have LP1 and satellite connections so that we can cover everywhere. And our vision is to connect everything, everyone from everywhere, so we can achieve a true connected world together with our customers and partners. When it comes to customers, we have more than 20,000 customers worldwide. Our customers are virtually in all the verticals, including oil and gas, smart agriculture, EV charging, asset tracking, and so on and so on. What makes us unique is that we have built everything on top of AWS. We have implemented software network elements that are needed for running cellular IoT core on top of AWS. What does it mean from customer's perspective? From customer's IoT device point of view, when they connect to local cell tower, let's say AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, their cell tower, the next hop is already AWS because we have integrated with our carrier partners. The devices can talk to AWS endpoint without going through the public internet. The devices can use our SIEM or eSIM as an authentication token to authenticate to AWS endpoints and call API. If you are running your IoT backend in AWS VPC, we can also create a virtual private gateway that has VPC peering link to your VPC so that we can create a secure, isolated environment for your devices and your servers. So in a way, it's AWS Direct Connector for cellular, so it's highly appreciated by our enterprise customers. Building everything on top of AWS has also helped ourselves. When we started back in 2015, we are a startup, and we couldn't actually have funding for starting an MVNO business. Normally, if you are trying to start an MVNO business, you would have to have a large upfront cost and start the business. But since we implemented everything on AWS as software, and we have applied all the AWS best practices and using AWS services such as ECS, Amazon S3, DynamoDB, and so on, we could start from small and then grow as a global IoT player as of today. Also, although I mentioned those technical benefits of using AWS, it's not only that. The support that we get from AWS for business growth has been tremendous, especially when it comes to expanding our business globally. Our AWS relationships has helped. Let me give you a few examples. We have been in touch with global IoT business development team in AWS, not only in Japan, but also in the US and Europe. We have been having close relationship, and whenever they have a customer who is looking for secure way to connect their remote devices to AWS cloud, we get a lead and opportunities, and we work together. Whenever we post an opportunity to ACE, that's AWS's opportunity management portal, the account team reached out to us, and we jointly serve the customer. That has enabled us to provide the best customer support and customer care for our joint customers. And also, another thing I'd like to mention in this context is, as Jeff said, AWS Marketplace. We've been using AWS Marketplace, and we have listed our smart connectivity offering. And as you can imagine, to use our service, you would have to get a SIM or eSIM to connect your devices to the network. So it's not pure SaaS, although most of our service offerings are based on SaaS condition and business model. But still, the AWS Marketplace has a very flexible model. We could actually register our service credit as a way for our customers to purchase, and then they can apply that service credit to our usage. So the customers can order SIMs or eSIMs separately from our Amazon.com shopping site or our direct website, and then apply the service credit that you get from the AWS Marketplace. It also helps not only helping the customers know about us whenever they need a solution to connect secure devices securely to AWS. It also helps the AWS account team to find our solution when they need to support their customers for connectivity. So it has been helping both us and customers, and also the AWS account team to build the right solution for customers' IoT journey. And also, the AWS Marketplace allows flexible custom pricing offering as well. So it's not only for self-service customers. You can also create a private offering for large opportunities. That helps us to create a catered offerings to our customers, enterprise customers as well. So to summarize my points, the AWS has helped both from technical and business perspectives for us to grow. Without their support for both business and technical aspects, we couldn't get started as a player in IoT and grow as a global IoT player as of today. So we have really appreciated the support from AWS and partnership network. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Great. Super. Thank you, Kenta. So good example of a customer that has hardware coupled with software using Marketplace successfully, also looking to go outside of their own market in Japan into other markets with this as a foundation. Okay. The next path that we want to talk about is selling something new. Now, this is a bit more harvesting of what you currently have, this program. This program is something that's been around for just about a year or so. And I wanted to start off with a couple of quotes from customers that have gone through this. And I'm going to relate this back to my brother-in-law, who's a struggling actor in Los Angeles. And one of the things he always says is that nobody ever rejects you face to face. You know, they basically say, hey, don't call us, we'll call you, or we'll get back to you. And that typically doesn't happen as well when we have customers giving us feedback on a program. We have certainly some bold customers that will give us direct feedback immediately, but most of the time it goes through the account manager. With this program in particular, some of the quotes from customers have been blowing us away. So we've achieved more in this past session, 4 weeks, than we've had in a couple of years. Is the one, and also with a startup having a big brother here is certainly an advisory type of role that we'd like to see. So the trust is built with the account manager. There have been some programs that we want to bring in, and you've got to deliver on the capabilities. This program is called the Roadmap Acceleration Program. This is essentially looking at what you're currently doing as a company and where do you want to go and how can we connect those dots. It is part of a growth strategy. The individuals that are working in this program are not on a plan, so to speak, to sell you something. They are people who I'm going to bring up, Jeffrey Hammond, who has broken some eggs before when he made his omelet. He's made some mistakes as an ex kind of CPO-like individual who we can learn from. Okay, these are people with a lot of experience, and Jeffrey's looking to expand his group of facilitators globally. It's already expanded, but we're continuing it because of the demand we've had for this solution. Essentially what this does is that it gets a small team of decision makers with the company, and he conducts a 90-minute discovery session. When you have a broad perspective of many types of either traditional non-SaaS software companies or the born in the cloud SaaS environment companies, you can have a solid perspective to be able to look at the various trajectories and paths that those customers are going on and have a strong tool chest of comparable capabilities from those organizations. Certainly the rule of 40 is something that has been discussed broadly, which essentially says that that growth plus your profit margin for startups should be over 40%. Growth rate plus profit margin is the kind of rule to guide new projects by. But this session starts off with a very clean discovery session. We have there's an interlock that happens there. Then there's some kind of homework that the team does in order to come back with a set of recommendations and this bubble chart that looks at, here are your conservative options that will cost less as a set of solution paths to go down. And here are the relative size of them. And then here's another set of options that might be more risky, but they could be larger opportunities. And there's a lot of variables in between. So it is a longer road type of solution. It's a relatively low process-oriented path, but it starts with that, and I think we continue along that journey with a customer and continue to follow up as this continues and gets delivered. So the customer at the end of the session gets their report with a set of recommended actions. We've had customers actually bring this to their board, bring it to a set of founders or advisors. So it can be used in multiple fashions to, in some cases, reinforce what the management team has already been speaking about to the advisors, or to potentially go off into a new trajectory. So that is the Roadmap Acceleration Program. A couple of additional quotes from customers. So it's getting this external view. We see and talk to many software companies globally, and by category. We are deeply invested in trying to look at our business by categories and by industries so that we can get a general set of knowledge by categories like infrastructure, biz apps, and verticals, but then we can get deeper within those subcategories to be more of an expert advisory type role that we would provide to you. So we're looking at this from a consultant perspective, and rather than me talking about it, I want to have Jeffrey come up and give you some specific examples. So Jeffrey?
Thanks. Good morning. So it's been fun over the past 18 months putting together the RAP program. I want to go into a little bit of details about why we've done that. But first of all, interesting little fact, It's something I didn't necessarily know when I joined Amazon, but it kind of makes sense if you think about how large of an organization we are. There are hundreds, multiple hundreds of employees at Amazon that at one point in their career were either a CPO or a VP of product, a product decision maker who've been in the shoes of the folks that are thinking about what bets you want to place when you're creating new products. And so one of the things we want to try to do is harness those people and make it possible for them to be a resource for our ISV and our DNB customers. But it's not as easy as it sounds. And one of the things that we do regularly is we have sessions where we listen to product decision makers, things like the CPO forums that we run, so that we can understand the challenges that they face, so we can figure out how we're going to work backward from those and help with those challenges. It was at a CPO forum right after I joined that I heard one CPO express this problem. And what he said was, you know, at AWS, you guys have really built a set of services for builders, and it's great. But it's challenging for us. For me, it's like walking into the Lego store, and I see hundreds or thousands of different Legos, and there are no instruction sets, okay? I know what I want to build, so help me figure out what I'm going to build. And so the RAP, Roadmap Acceleration Program, is an attempt to help create the instruction sets on a customer-by-customer basis for our product decision makers to help them put the Lego blocks together in the ways that are going to drive growth. That's the problem we're trying to solve. So how do we do that? First of all, very low ceremony. All you have to do if you're interested in a RAP session is tell your AM that you'd like to do that. And they get in touch with us, we get on the horn, and we can schedule something in as little as 2 weeks. We don't take a lot of time. We ask for about 2 hours worth of total time commitment from your product decision makers, whether it's a CPO, VP of product, we've even done one with a chief architect, or even a director of product at some of our larger ISV customers. We take 90 minutes of that time and we run through our structured discovery technique where we look at what your innovation priorities are, what your priorities are for top line growth, any priorities that you have to deliver your products faster, and challenges that you're investing in to improve your operational excellence. Now, why do we do that? Because of the external conditions that you're trying to create products for, your relative priority and focus on those different areas may be changing. As an example, when we first started 18 months ago, you talk about the rule of 40, it was growth, growth, growth. So topics like geographic expansion, going up market, mergers and acquisitions, adding additional products were things that were very much top of mind for our product decision makers. But what did we see toward the end of last year? A little bit of a shift because of the change in market conditions and the fact that cash wasn't free anymore. So I think about the first RAP session I did this year in 2023 with one of our customers. Number one priority for the CPO, I got to take 15% out of my cost of goods sold this year. Operational excellence. And so we had to figure out ways that we could put together the Lego blocks here at AWS to meet the priority of that CPO. But then again, in April, something really, really changed, and it felt like every single conversation that we were having were about how are we going to build new products that allow us to take advantage of generative AI as a technology. So the conversation shifted again and became around conversations like RAG-based opportunities and natural language generation of queries for data that folks were supporting, or to drive onboarding. And so connecting to Lego blocks like Pace Labs or the Generative AI Innovation Center became really important. And now, even now, it seems like we're starting to see the early signs of green shoots and shifting back to some of those new product growth and expansion types of drivers. So that's what we capture in that 90-minute structured conversation. Then we take it and we analyze it and we build the bubble chart, which is customized, and we come back in a couple weeks to that team and present our findings. Anybody here ever played planning poker in the Agile world? If you have, you'll know that it's not so much about the estimates that the developers put out there, it's in the discussion behind why they chose the particular value that they did that provides the most results because it allows them to compare their mental models over estimation and get a better understanding of exactly the task at hand. That's what the bubble chart does. It provides a model. It's a very lightweight way to begin the discussion point about how we can help move your priorities forward. And then based on that, our account teams and our customer success representatives, our SAs, all have a common model that they can use to support the product decision maker. As I said, we've been doing this for about 18 months. We've done about 100 sessions across DNBs and ISVs so far, and we've seen some really great results. We're seeing folks that are starting to renew their RAP sessions, doing them again for the second year, and it's led to informing strategic collaboration agreements, helping folks understand what programs are the best to take advantage of, and connecting those dots. So even though we don't have the printed instruction sets to build everything that you want at any time, we do have the customized ability to help you realize what you're trying to do with new product development. So if you're interested, talk to your rep, tell them you're interested in a RAP session, and we'll get you on the list. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. So is anyone surprised that we have this program? Is this shocking to anyone that's not? Yeah, I mean, it's not something you would think that it comes from an infrastructure company, and it is additive and consultative, very high value that we're excited about. And so much so because of the feedback, I mean, it's a continual loop. Our responsibility is to ensure that we provide end-to-end value-added capabilities for software companies. We've heard the feedback, so we're adding more facilitators in multiple markets to be able to run the session. And it's complementary. It's a complementary session. We are successful if you're successful. So this is looking at customer outcomes and trying to help you navigate the building blocks and our services in order to achieve those outcomes. That's the design of this program. So when I said marketplace and then a little more conservative, it's still pretty conservative. Like we're not going into fifth gear around the curve in the fog yet, because these are just the only cost you have is your time and opportunity cost. And there's certainly some significant individuals at your company that have to spend time with Jeffrey and his team in order to evaluate this. But we believe that it's been valuable, and hopefully you can join that group. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is selling into a new geography. Very excited about this program. We are essentially launching it here in a broader way than we have before. We had a pilot operating and had some really good feedback, and you'll hear from a customer who's going through that soon. But what we're going to talk about here is just global growth in general and how challenging that can be. Depending on the size of the company, we've observed that if you're a large organization and you're well funded, you can certainly get a Deloitte or a consultant to kind of help you manage this. Even some portfolio companies with their private equity firms, they may have a division of the company that specializes in this because it's complex. I mean, there are a lot of major decisions that need to be made. We believe, based on feedback from you and from customers, that this is an area that is of interest and that you want help with navigating. So we're trying to build that muscle memory in order to advise and to put a more strategic and step-by-step kind of path to consider here. When this occurs, I've talked to customers that have gone global. Sometimes they go to the Middle East because they had a family member there, or they have gone to another environment. I know a company from the UK going into the US just because they had a customer that called them, and all right, now we're global. We're in the US. So one of the paths here is to just take a step back and say, is this the right strategic vision for my company, and make sure that it's a part of that bigger landscape. We're also seeing challenges with the regulatory markets. We have individuals that are focused on the European market to ensure that we're aware of the rapidly changing rules that occur when someone wants to go into that market in particular. Then you've got changing client demands that we've talked about, but I think the regulatory piece is one that really is challenging for a company that might not have the funding or liquidity to be able to just hire groups of consultants in order to do this. Let us try to be that advisor on this path. So we've divided Passport up into 4 strategic areas. I'm going to talk about each one of them. It's strategic evaluation, make sure that we understand the path and the steps. What are the security and compliance capabilities here? And then operationally, when you land, what are the potential landmines to be aware of? And how can you navigate those? And then also, we'd love to be able to put a pipeline of customers together. Wouldn't that be nice? You landed a new market, you've got a pipeline of customers to be able to take advantage of when you land. That makes the ROI and the acceleration that much easier, and that's the design of this program. Those are the 4 components. So the first one, strategic evaluation. At the moment, we've partnered with a company that just does this, and it's not a large consultant. It's a mid-range consultant, but they have offices in multiple countries around the world. And they essentially come in and say, okay, what's the nature of this? They have a pattern of questions that they go through, and why are you looking to go into this particular market in particular? What do you have to be aware of from a competitive analysis perspective when you land? What about a location strategy? Do you need to have people? Can you have a remote environment? What kind of products do you have that require local service? And then they get more into marketing strategy and sales planning, and then who are going to be, if it gets to that point, what is the path and the timetable for strategic hires in order to make that move a reality? They put a plan together. It's something that you can take or leave. It's an advisory plan based on doing this multiple times with many countries, and not just EMEA or Europe into the US. They're in multiple, like I said, multiple offices, and they handle, inter-APJ or APAC movements, in addition to movements within the European environment as well. So that is the initial stage to set the tone there. The next one is security and compliance, and this is a team that actually resides within our advisory group within AWS, but they've actually formed a separate entity, and they are within the ProServe umbrella, but formed a separate entity so that they could give advice and not have the legal implications of the advice. So it's called Security Assurance Services, this team. They are stocked with individuals that have worked with US government in the past. They have a number of certifications with regard to going to certain markets that are regulated. And then they also have a strong familiarity of AWS services so that they can also connect the dots, get the FedRAMP compliance, understand HIPAA if you're going into the medical environment. And they advise based on your existing solution. Is it ready? Or what would you need in order to go into this new market based on the type of customer that you're targeting and based on the type of business that you are? Okay? ProServe Business, we set that group up, and they have a strong set of recommendations based on their knowledge. The next one is operational. These are not the obvious considerations when you're going to a new market, but what do you have to consider when you're going into Germany leasing office space? Is there an alternative? Is there an agent? I know I can't recall the name now, but there are certain, it's kind of like a WeWork type space, but is that a path that you want to consider? Do you even need to have someone in that market? So this type of challenges or considerations by market will continue to build based on the markets of the customers that are in the program, in order to have kind of, here's your consideration list to review before going into that space. So we're also looking at trying to provide a co-working space with kind of startup groups that we work with. And then there are also considerations around HR guidelines, like what do you have to consider when you hire someone in this market? What are the specific rules there that might be different from where you're from? Okay. Otherwise, you'd be hiring, getting advisors in order to look at this. We're building this capability in-house. And then the last piece around the Passport program is building that pipeline. And this is, to some, particularly in go-to-market, probably the most important element is, we have a partner team that's focused on trying to take your solutions and target the most appropriate customers in order to build your pipeline when you land. But then we also have communities where we can essentially be a co-sell partner with you in order to promote, to make aware of the solution, open doors for a solution to go into a certain target market. You've got to close that sale, but having a partner there to be able to provide a set of capabilities that lay some groundwork for a pipeline is where we're starting. We use Marketplace as the foundational element as well, but there are other communities that we introduce these customers to. So we've gone through this or are continuing to go through this with a set of pilot customers, getting exceptional early feedback. I wanted to bring up one of those pilot customers, Keith Pick from BuildKite. Exceptional story. I wanted to bring up Keith to talk about what he's doing with Passport.
G'day everyone, I hope you're having a good re:Invent so far. I'm Keith, I'm the CEO and founder of BuildKite. I am from Australia, if you haven't told by my accent. I live amongst the kangaroos and the kookaburras in the outback. I'm from Perth, if you know where that is, I think it's closer to Tatooine in the Star Wars galaxy than it is any other major city in the world. And the time zone in Perth is 1995. So that's where I'm from. BuildKite is a build and test and automation platform. We sort of do CI/CD. We've had some great success in the enterprise, and I can almost guarantee at least 5 of the apps on your phone have been built with BuildKite. If you've ever ordered a cheeky burrito off one of the food delivery apps, we probably built and tested that. If you've ever swiped left or swiped right to find some love, we probably helped with that too. And if you've ever used any sort of instant communication at your work, we may have been involved with that too. Also, the world's biggest AI companies, we help out there as well. BuildKite's founding story is a little interesting. I'm an engineer. I'm a programmer by trade. I've always been a programmer ever since I was a kid, very interested in programming. And I was working for a company that had a a cloud-based CI/CD tool. And the security team said, no more of that. You can't use the cloud-based CI anymore. Because we were doing continuous deployment, which meant that if you wanted to do continuous deployment from a cloud-based CI/CD tool, you had to sort of hand over your production credentials and secrets to a third party, and security were like, no more of that, bring CI in-house, put it on this box in the corner of the office. And I was like, yeah, I could do that, and I'd used all the self-hosted CIs before, I'd used them all, I won't mention them here, but you know the ones. There's a few Butlers logos for them, and I just couldn't be bothered setting them up again, and as most engineers do, they think, you know what, I could probably do a better job. So I tried to build my own CI over a weekend, thinking that I could just bang something out and it would be awesome. I'm still working on it 10 years later, but it's getting good. It's much better now. And so, I built this thing. Again, I wasn't really trying to make a business. I was just trying to solve my own problems. I had my own set of opinions about how build and test should be done, so I sort of baked them into this thing. From there, I started building out more of the product, and I'd ask people, hey, what do you think of this? Is this cool? Do you want to buy it? And I wasn't trying to make a business. I was just trying to solve my own problems and just make a tool that my colleagues would use and love to play with. And so the first 6 or 7 years of BuildKite was mostly this. It was just, if I have to label it, I would call it like a lifestyle business. I wasn't really aiming for growth. We didn't have VC backing. It was bootstrapped. So it was just me and a bunch of nerds just trying to build something super, super cool. What happened, though, is that some developer tools have great PLG, bottoms-up motions. We were trash at that. We had sort of stumbled into the enterprise very early, mostly by accident because the approach that we took, so what sort of makes our approach of CI/CD unique is that instead of being entirely cloud-based or entirely self-hosted, we invented a hybrid model where our customers would connect their own Amazon account to our systems, and they would orchestrate the build and test within their own compute. The benefit of that was if you do continuous deployment, continuous delivery, you don't need to give us the secrets. We never see your source code. So you do you, we do we, and there's a strong line between us. And it turns out that approach really resonated with big companies, and so we're building this thing from Australia, and then all of a sudden we get a phone call from Shopify or Uber or Slack or Tinder or any of those sorts of companies like, hey, we want to use your shit. And that was super cool. But the first 6 or 7, 8 years of BuildKite, we were very busy building and scaling the product. We actually did mostly zero effort in go-to-market. We didn't really do anything because the strategy that we had was one of word of mouth and one of hope. And that is not a very clever way to build a business. So 2 years ago, we hired a sales team. We hadn't had it for the majority of BuildKite's life. We had a sales team, and then things started cooking. We're like, okay, we're getting some more deals now. We're getting some deals closed faster. This is awesome. But we also use Amazon, right? And as we worked closer with Amazon, they were like, hey, we can sort of help you out with coming up with a strategy. Have you heard of a thing called the Marketplace? And I thought, yeah, that's just where people buy stuff. I'm not really interested. And they were like, people can use their EDP spend and put it through a marketplace, and maybe you can get access to budget that you didn't have access to before. And we thought, interesting. So as we started doing deals now, we're like, hey, you should buy BuildKite. And they're like, oh, we've not got the money. And we would say, but do you have an EDP? And they're like, yes, we do. I'm like, put it through that. And they're like, cool, we'll buy it now. So that was sort of the gateway drug, to start working with the Amazon partners. And so we're now part of the Passport program, and what we're doing now is they're helping us build, instead of a strategy of hope and word of mouth, they can say, well, where do you want to go? Who do you want to sell to? Who is your ideal customer profile? What are their problems? What are their needs? What are their wants? How do they talk? Why do they talk? Where do they talk? And so they're helping us put together a whole strategy for, even though we have customers in the US today, they're sort of helping us re-enter the US with a strategy instead of just, messing around and seeing what happens. So the program has been great so far. If you do enter the program, some bits of advice for you. You get out what you put in. Don't half-ass it. Don't do yeah, we're doing a little bit of Amazon stuff. We'll see what happens. Nah, you got to make it like a priority because Amazon tend to respond how you what you put in. So if you put in 100%, they'll give you back 100%. So that's what we found. And the other big benefit of the program is, look, I'm standing on stage talking to you now about building a company from Australia. That's part of the program. They help open up doors. And so it's been great so far. We've gotten quite a number of new leads through the program. And if you do want to look into it, Amazon like their flywheels. And so if you can help paint a picture with Amazon where you fit in the flywheel, how if they help you sell your software, they make more money and then you make money and da-da-da-da-da. So if you sort of paint that picture, then you can do that whole co-sell piece. And that's been, we've done it time and time again, and it's been fantastic. So that's all I've got to say. Passport's pretty cool. Check it out. Thank you very much.
Super, thank you, Keith. So get an example of someone who has been in the pilot program, has gone through the starting points of the journey. We're still working with them. And as I said, we're looking to open this up to a next set of customers, talk to your account team, and they can get in touch with our group. If you mention Passport, I'm sure they can go and find it and get a hold of our team. Okay, so what I've talked about today I wanted you, there are thousands of programs here today. You're going to get so much input. Please take an email to yourself, I've got a little piece of paper, old school, writing things down and notes that I can take back and look at later. But jot an email down, send a note to your account team. Was there something that resonated here? They're pretty low process. Two of the top ones are free to you. I mean, there's no cost. So some more of what you have, we talked about Marketplace. That's the foundation. We're going to build upon that. That is a channel that you can use for everything that you layer on top. Okay, that's where we're going to start with. Talking about something new, we've got experts like Jeffrey Hammond and his team that can come in and advise you on your existing path, but also it's that instruction guide to some degree for that complicated Harry Potter Lego thing that there's no way you could build that by yourself, right? You need some instructions. We have 200 services, but there's many, many more, and there's no way you're going to learn about the depths and intricacies there. So take your development team that might be doing something here, match-make that with someone like Jeffrey in order to say, hey, we could take advantage of an AWS service, and then we could focus this team on something else that's more higher value. Okay, that's the goal for roadmap acceleration, and it's all entirely up to you. We're just giving you the advice and the path to consider. And then the last thing, we're going to speed up a little bit through that fog. We're going to come out on the other side of the fog with a broader set of capabilities and a potentially new market, because we know it's going to happen, right? We've been in these cycles before. We know that we're optimistic about the fog lifting and us coming out stronger. So invest through the fog. Look at Passport program. You can also consider options yourself and consider the other side and how you'll structure yourself as a company for that growth. Okay? Thank you. We have a little bit of time. We're going to take the group and we're going to park ourselves back in this corridor, fill out the survey, and thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.